What's going on, guys, and welcome back for another video. I know I've only been posting one day a week, but with the amount of content that we have coming through right now, that's kind of fitting. So last video we went over summarization of snowmobiles, what to do to them to get them ready to sit in our off season. So whether that's fuel, whether that's cleaning products, what to do with everything, what to spray on the sled, what to keep your sled looking like brand new. So that was just what to do to them to keep them there. Now we're going to talk about what maintenance should you do in the off season. So off season maintenance. And there's going to be a couple videos of this, but the one that I wanted to start with today, because I feel like it's mostly overlooked in the industry, is shocks. So now this video is going to be kind of talking about two things. We're going to be talking about rebuilding shocks, and then we're going to talk about revalving shocks. So yes, they are two different things, but they're all going to work into this one video. So a lot of people, and if you guys have been here, you guys know that we, and by we, I mean me and Bruce Sr. from Southside Sales and Service, did a ton of shock work, and we did a ton of shock valving. So if you guys don't know what valving is, actually internal components in the shock that affect how stiff it is, whether that's high speed or low speed stiffness. And we did an entire video, a 26-minute video talking about that, and I will post that up here, somewhere up here. So we did a ton on this, and unfortunately, especially these XCRs, they were not sent to us with what we thought was the proper valving and proper spec to fit that XCR name. So we're gonna get kind of to that. But shocks are what make your sled feel like you're at home. So they are, why does a sled feel comfortable? Well, your shocks. And what I said in the beginning, I feel like this is overlooked and people don't really take care of them the way that they're supposed to. So just like anything on your sled or your car or anything like that, shocks take a beating, especially on snowmobiles, especially if you're riding in beat up trails. That shaft is going through that body of that shock over and over and over and over. And eventually that oil and those gases and everything are gonna get worn down. The oil, just like anything, is getting shoved through a teeny tiny passage hole. So it's eventually gonna wear out. There's also gas, pressurized gas in there. That could not be at the correct pressure. It cannot, it might have seeped out. It could have, dislodged the piston. And we talked about that in that shock video that I just talked about a little while ago. So all these things play into factor. So, that is one thing in the off season that I and Bruce would recommend pulling them off and sending them in for a rebuild. Now, that's not changing anything internally like we did. That's not changing valving or any other internal part within the shock. That's just sending them back for Bruce to look over, put new oil in them, and put new gas in them. Just so when you go out the next season, it's going to be like you're on new suspension, if not better than new suspension, and go from there. So rebuilding of shocks is going to be, and I wrote this down, give me a sec, it's going to be $75 per shock. So this one shock will cost you $75 to get new oil, new gas in. Bruce will look them over. Obviously, if there's a bad seal or something like that, that will be extra. But if they're good, they're clean, they just needed some new oil and some new, pressurized gas, it'll be $75 per shock. So that is one thing. If you are 100% happy with your sled and you are just looking to do some off-season maintenance, pull them off, send them to Bruce, and I will get how you can send them to Bruce later on in the video. That's what that form is. So that is just rebuilding. So now we're gonna get into the conversation of revalving. So again, if you guys have been here and you follow along, you knew that we were not happy with the XCR. We're not happy with how the suspension felt. We weren't happy with the springs, but ultimately we were not happy with the valving of the rear suspension. The fronts weren't terrible. Mine ended up getting done revalved. We're more so unhappy with the rear suspension. So Bruce and I and a bunch of other of our buddies that are good friends with Bruce tried a ton of different setups, different valving. So you have all different shims, So Bruce tried many different combinations of different valving and springs and everything on XDRs, NVR1s, NXCs, and every other sled that you could possibly think of. And it's not just the Matrix platform. This is all platforms. So if you are not happy with how your sled is handling, you don't think that it's taking the bumps as well as it should, or you would like to change this, or you would like to change that, or if you think it's too stiff and you wanted to soften it up, which we did not run into any of that this year. We stiffened everything up. But if you think it's too stiff and you want it softer, Bruce can do that. If you think it's too soft and you want it stiffer, he could do that. So really, it's a never-ending option list. You could really do whatever you want. So for me, with my suspension, we went all the way through, and I am extremely hard on this. But just to show, just to explain to you guys that what can be done. The needle in the rear shock was taken out and valved, stiffer. So there's, you could do that. You can just do valving. You can, Bruce is even able to slow the rebound down because we don't have rebound adjustment on it. He can work within the valving to change that. He could change the internal pistons. He could do anything that you want to do to your sled, to try and get it so you are as happy as you possibly can. Can you stop eating everything? When you're on it. Again, we talk about this all the time. Season is extremely short, so your time on the sled, you want it to be, as good as you can. So, off-season maintenance, either get your shocks rebuilt, just get some new gas and some new oil in them, or take the time, have them revalved by Bruce, and get that sled acting the way that you're supposed to. So a revalve is going to cost you $90 per shock, just because that's going to be, parts that he's adding into it and shims that he's, putting into it to make that shock work as it's supposed to. And again, same thing, if there's any seals that are bad, or if, take needles out or change internal pistons, it's all going to be extra. But if you're just sending them in and just getting valving done and new gas and new oil, it is going to be $90 per shock. So now you guys are probably wondering, well, how do I do that? Well, the easiest way for everyone is to remove all the shocks off from your sled. So if you want to do the front, and obviously if you're rebuilding them and you want new oils and everything, you want to do all four corners. It's just good maintenance to do it. So what we recommend is pull all the shocks out, the front, take them out of the rear, take the springs off them, and there's all little bushings that your bolts go through, bushings and spacers and everything. Recommend pulling all of them out so that when Bruce gets it, he doesn't have to worry about pulling the springs out, making sure the bushings aren't falling out all over the place. So take them all off, package them in a box, and then it's like, okay, well now what do you do? Well, that's where this form comes in handy. So this is something that I came up for Bruce just to make this easier. So it's pretty much a form, and I don't know if you guys can see it from here. And this form is what you're going to be sending with your shocks. You're going to have to print this out and put it inside the box that you're sending to Southside Sales and Service, which the address is right here. So you're sending it right to there. Send all your shocks, whether it's 2, 3, 4, or 50 of them, whatever you need to do. So fill this form out completely. It's pretty self-explanatory. This gives Bruce enough basic knowledge to give you guys a call, which he's going to. At the end, it says, Bruce Sr. will be calling after receiving this package to ask a few more questions and make sure that you get the exact service that you were looking for, okay? We're making this very bulletproof, dummy-proof, whatever way you want to call it. So just give some, basic questions of, what you don't like, your sled, model sled, how you ride, what you don't like about it, so on and so forth. Because we want to get these sleds handling for you guys. So now you're wondering, how can I get this form? Well, I have no way of actually attaching it to this video or anything. So you're gonna have to go to the Southside Sales and Service Facebook page, and there will be a link with it. We're getting this added to the Southside Sales and Service website. It's just not done yet. So keep an eye out for that, and I will touch on that when it is on the website and let you guys know. But this form is going to be the key ticket in you getting the correct service done on your shocks. So just to recap, off-season maintenance, we're going to start with shocks. Pull them off, get them rebuilt. Bruce recommends, if you're just doing a rebuild, to do every 1,000 miles. Again, it's overlooked a ton in the industry, but they take a beating, It's just like, car engine oil or any type of oil. They just take a beating. So you gotta go through them, put new oil in them, and keep them happy. If not, the handling of your sled is going to deteriorate over time. So that's rebuild. Revalve. If you're not happy with how your sled's handling, if you think it could be better in certain areas, throw that in there. And again, if you guys have questions of, well, I think this, I will answer most of them in there just to give you guys like a direction to go or what to put on this form, so you guys aren't completely lost. And I know that there's so many different variables into this and everything like that, but this is our number one off-season maintenance tip. Because just like we say all the time, our season, and it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter, we want everyone to be happy on their sled when they're riding it. So take the time this off season when it's 75 to 110 degrees outside, pull those shocks off, hang out with your buddies, take the shocks off, put them in a box, fill this form out, and send them to Bruce at Southside Sales and Service, and you're gonna be one happy camper at the end of the year. So I hope that, gives you guys a direction. Again, put them, any comments, questions, put them in the comments, and I will get back to you guys. But the form will be on Southside Sales and Service website, where you can click on it and print it, and then it's also, it's going to be on their Facebook, and then it's also going to be on their website at some point. So, but that's going to do it, guys. I hope that you guys take our advice and you guys pull your shocks and you go and get them done, because it is incredible the difference that Bruce can put inside these shocks, and the difference that it makes the sled. It makes it act completely different. So, that's it, guys. I hope you like it. I hope this helps some of you guys, and I hope it points you in the right direction. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.